Hello boys and girls, a very good evening and welcome to this live session for your upcoming SBI PO mains exam brought to you by TalentSprint. I hope all of you are in good health and so is your practice, which is very important to score more in this particular exam or in general any competitive exam. Now we are today going to look at question number 10 as a part of those 15 must solve questions for your SBI PO mains exam, and today's question is based on data interpretation, which of course carries a high weightage here, right? And more importantly, it is one of those recent types where some data is missing and the whole context is based on one of the arithmetic aptitude topics like time and work or time and distance or simple and compound interest, right? So I think a very interesting question. Let me quickly present the data to you all. Observe it for 30 seconds, try and gauge what all can be evaluated or extracted from the given table, and then we shall look at the questions one after the other, right? So let's get started. I am going to present the question to you all now and the data to you along with the first question. So spend some time, about a minute or 90 seconds since this is the first question, and then we will look at the solution. So here's the question on your screens and your time starts now. See what it says. Basically, it says a batch of college went for a feast. During the feast, they distributed the work among them and did 6 actions. The following table gives the number of boys, girls and lecturers employed in these actions. It is known that the efficiency of a boy, a girl and a lecturer is in the ratio of 6:5:3. There's one table here. It talks about 6 different actions, actions 1 to 6. The number of boys, girls and lecturers for each of these actions. Some of the values are missing, which you all know will be given indirectly in the question itself. Now here's the first question. See what it says. According to the persons assigned, action 2 was to be completed in 18 days and action 6 in 12 days. But the groups of these actions got interchanged. Find the difference between the number of days of completion of action 2 and 6 in this case. So we're referring to action 2 and 6. The number of boys, girls, lecturers for both of these actions have been given. Now, according to the groups assigned, action 2 was to be completed in 18 days and action 6 was to be done in 12 days. However, the groups got assigned, interchanged. So basically, 8 boys, 12 girls and 6 lecturers now did action 6. And 7 boys, 6 girls, 4 lecturers did action 2. So of course, they'll be taking different number of days. So what is the difference between the number of days taken by these two groups to complete the actions is the question here. You have about 1 minute for this. The clock starts now. So if you're trying it out, the time is almost up. However, I would give you a few more seconds given that this is the first question. Alright guys, I think enough time has been given. I assumed you will be able to crack it by this time now. However, let's look at the solution. So what do we have to do? We have been given the number of boys, girls and lecturers assigned to two different tasks. Task number 2 and task number 6, or action 2 and action 6. Right? That's what we are referring to. And we have also been given the number of days required by these groups to do that particular job. However, in the actual scenario, the groups got interchanged. So the group assigned to task 2 did task 6, and that assigned to task 6 did the task 2. So of course they'll be taking different number of days. What is the difference in the number of days taken in this case is the question here. How do you solve this? Simple. We know the number of persons for each of the tasks. We also know their capacities, or indirectly the capacities have been given, right? He says the ratio is 6:5:3. So you can assume that each boy does 6 units of work in a day, each girl does 5 units of work in a day, and each lecturer does 3 units of work in a day. Given that, you can find out the total work done by each one boy, one girl and one lecturer in a day, or by the group in one day, and then find out the total work done, and then do that interchanging as given in the question to find the required answer. I know it sounds a little complex when you just talk about it, so let's try it out on paper and see what the solution is. Here we go. See what it says. So we know that the efficiency of a boy, a girl and a lecturer is in the ratio of 6:5:3, right? Now look at action 2. How many boys do we have? 8 boys, 12 girls and 6 lecturers. So can you find out the total work in a day by this group, action 2 group? You're getting it? Let's assume each boy does 6 units of work. Each boy does 6 units of work. Each girl does 5 units of work, and each lecturer does 3 units of work. Right? So if there are 8 boys, 12 girls and 6 lecturers, how many units of work can they do in one day? Right? 8 boys, 12 girls and 6 lecturers. So how much work can they do in one day? See, 8 into each boy we know does 6 units. Right? The ratio is given 6:5:3. So assume 6 units, 5 units and 3 units. So 6U, 5U and 3U. So 6 units plus each girl does 5 units. So 12 into 5 units, and each lecturer, so 6 lecturers here, they do 3 units a day. So what is the total now? Find this out. 8 6 is 48, 12 5 is 60, 48 and 6 is 108, and 6 3s is 18. So that's like 126 units. Yes or no? 8 into 6 48, 12 into 5 is 60, so that's 108, and this is 18. So 126 units. Likewise, we are talking about action 6 in the other case, right? 7, 6 and 4. 7 boys, 6 girls and 4 lecturers. So find out the units of work done by this group per day. 7 boys, 6 girls and 4 lecturers. You don't have to write all this in the exam, right? Just for the sake of explanation, I have to put it up here. So 7 boys into 6 units of work per day, plus 6 girls into 5 units of work per day, plus 4 lecturers into 3 units of work per day. How much is this? 7 6 is 42, 6 5 is 30, so that's 72, and 4 3 is 12, so this is 84 units. So basically what I know is this group here of 8 boys, 12 girls and 6 lecturers can do 126 units per day, and this group here can do 84 units per day. However, the groups got interchanged, they got swapped, meaning action 2 will be performed by this group, which can do 84 units per day, and action 6 will be performed by this group, which does 126 units per day. Are you able to follow? We now know the number of units that can be performed by each of these groups for their respective actions, which have been interchanged. Now what else do we know? The question also tells us that action 2 was to be completed in 18 days, and action 6 was to be completed in 12 days. Action 2 was, action 2 was to be completed in 18 days, and action 6 was to be completed in 12 days. So how do you simplify now? See, now let's find out the number of days required. Number of days required for action 2. For action 2. A2, let's say. Number of days required for A2. See, what is the total work, by the way? This group could have done 126 units. This group could have done 126 units per day. For how many days did they work? they work for 12 days. So total work was done was 126 into 12. But that now will be done at the rate of 84 units instead. So how many days? So basically the new number of days required is 126 units per day into, they would have actually taken whatever 18 days. That divided by 84. Likewise, the number of days required for action 6. Action 6 originally 84 units per day was done by the group, and they work for how many days? 12 days to complete the work. But now the work can be done at the rate of 126 units per day. So how many days? You're able to follow the 84 units here. This is the total work. Total work. Action 2. This is the total work action 6. Now it is being done at the rate of 84 units per day. And now this is being done at the rate of 126 units per day. Simplify this, you'll get the number of days. The difference of that will be the answer here. Right? So this is like 42 into 2 and 42 into 3. 42 times 2, 42 times 3. So 18 by 2 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27 days. Right? And this is again 42 to 2, 42 to 3. So 24 by 3 is 8 days. That's it. Take the difference. 27 days and 8 days. What is the difference? 27 minus 8, 19 is the difference. So that will be the answer. 27 minus 8, which is 19. 19 is the answer. Trust you have understood this. We know how much of work can be done per day by this group. Into this work was actually done in 18 days. So total work is 126 into 18. Right? Similarly, here the total work is 84 into 12. That's the total work. But now that total work will be done at the rate of 84. So divide by 84 to get the number of days. And now the other total work will be done at the rate of 126. So divide by 126 to get the number of days. So 27 days and 8 days. Difference 19 days is your answer. I hope all of you have understood this. Right? So simple. We know the capacity of each individual here, each type of person, boy, girl, and lecturer. We also know the number of boys, number of girls, number of lecturers in each of these tasks. So you can find out the total work that they're doing if we know the total number of days. Or you can find out the total units of work that can be done per day with a given group. And based on that, you just apply the regular principles of time and work to get the required answers. Right? Let's look at the next question. Here's the next one. Write out. Action 5 is 3/4 of action 4. Action 5 is 3/4 of action 4. If both the actions get completed in the same time, what's the number of boys allotted to action 5? So we know that number of boys in action 5 is not known to us. But now there's some data given there. Figure out the number of boys allotted in action 5. It is exactly what we have discussed in time and work. There's no difference here. It's just that you need to apply those concepts here to get the required answers. Alright, time is up. I think we have already discussed the concept, so this should not be taking as long as the previous one. Look at this. What does it say? Action 5 is 3/4 times of action 4. If both the actions get completed in the same time, what is the number of boys allotted to action 5? Now, what does it mean? See, he says action 5 is 3/4 of action 4. Action 5 basically is work 5. It's like, work 5. This is work 5. Action may confuse you. So let's consider it as work. Because then what happens is the concepts will fall in place. We have always talked about work equals to number of men into number of days. or W1 by W2 equals to, P1 D1 H1 by P2 D2 H2. So action here is basically your work. So he says action 5 is 3/4 times of action 4, right? So W5 is equal to 3/4 times of W4. Action 5 is 3/4 times of action 4, right? If both the actions get completed at the same time, what is the difference? What is the number of boys allotted to action 5? What is the number of boys allotted to action 5? First of all, let us find out what is W4. How do we find W4? We know, first of all, let's find out the group in W4, assigned for W4, does how many units of work per day? Same concept, we know the efficiency ratio, 6 units, 5 units and 3 units, right? So how much work can they do in a day is the question, right? So what will be the work? You see, 6 units, 5 units and 3 units, right? So 15 boys into 6 units per day, 16 boys into 5 units per day, and 10 lecturers into 3 units per day, right? So here we can first of all, this equation tells us that W5 by W4 equals to 3/4. W5 by W4 equals to 3/4. Now W5 by W4 is 3/4, and the time taken is equal. Both the actions get completed in the same time. Right? See, what is W? Work is number of persons into number of days. Number of persons into number of days into number of hours, which is nothing but number of persons into number of hours. So basically, number of persons in group 5 into time taken for 5 is equals to number of persons into group 4 into time taken for group 4, work 4, equals to 3/4. But T5 is equal to T4, so both get cancelled. There's no difference here. Both the actions get completed at the same time. T5 and T4 are same, so forget about that. So persons involved in group 5 by persons involved in group 4 should be equal. Or basically the capacity should be equal. Right? So how do you do that? Now this P5 is nothing but the group. See, we generally say persons because there's one type of person, but here different types of persons involved. So work done by this entire group should be equal to the work done by this entire group. Now what is a P5? Let's assume the number of boys is equal to B here, right? So P into the boys do 6 units per day plus, we're talking about 5, right? P5 by P4 equals to 3/4. Now this is 9 girls into 5 units per day plus here we have 11 lecturers into 3 units per day. Divide by, do it for group 4. What is the group 4? 15 boys into 6 units per day plus 16 girls into 5 units per day and 10 lecturers into 3 units per day equals to 3/4. Simplify this to get the value of B. Right? Simplify this to get the value of B. So what happens? I think units, you can forget about the U's here because that anyway gets cancelled on both the sides, right? So what do we have? 9 5s is 45, 11 3s is 33. Here we have 80, this is 16, 15 6 is 90, and this is 30. So basically, and this is 6, U anyways got cancelled. So 6B plus, this is what? 45 plus 33 is 78. Equals to, this is 90 plus 30, 120 plus 80, 200. Yeah. So the equation looks like this. You see, 6B plus 45 and 30 is 78 divided by, this is 90 and 80, 170 plus 30, 200 equals to 3/4. So this goes 50 times 50 into 3 is 150, 150 minus 78. So 6B equals to 150 minus 78. 150 minus 78 is what? 22 plus 50, 72. 6B 72. So B should be equal to 72 by 6, which is 12. So we can say there will be 12 boys in action 5. Option 4 has to be the answer. You getting it? 12 boys will be involved in action 5. So it's basically the same concept. W1 by W2 equals to P1 D1 H1 by P2 D2 H2, where D and H refers to days and hours, which is time. So he says time taken in both the cases is same. So forget about that, it gets cancelled. All you have to do is W1 by W2 equals to P1 by P2. P1 refers to person, number of persons. Now here there is a group. So talk about the group's capacity. W1 by W2 is given, right? One work is 3/4 times other work, he says. That ratio you already know. Just convert that to the capacities. Compare that with the capacities of the groups and be able to find out the number of boys. So 12 is the answer here. And let me also tell you that this is not the actual time that you would spend solving this question, right? I'm explaining it to you, so it's taking longer. I'm writing all these steps so that you follow the solution. When you do it yourself, cut down a lot of steps and get the required answer. Clear to all of you? It's it's very similar to the basic concept of, W1 by W equals to P1 D1 H1 by P2 D2 H2. No? I think Vignesh has not followed it, so let me just go back to this and do it once again for Vignesh and others who have not followed this. Right? Simple. See, let us find out. We are talking about action 5 and action 4, right? So work 5 and work 4. Let's find out what is the number of units done by this group per day. How much will that be? 15 into 6 plus 16 into 5 plus 10 into plus 10 into 3. This should be fairly simple, right? We've already covered this concept in the last question as well. Plus 10 into 3. So how much will this come out to be? This is 90, this is 80, 90 and 80 is 170, and this is 30, so 200. So meaning this group can do 200 units per day. How about this group? Action 5. Look at the other group. So let's assume there are B boys. So what's the total work done by this group? What will the total work done by this group? B into 6, right? Plus 9 into 5. 9 girls into 5 units per day plus 11 into 3 units per day. So this is 9 5 is 45 plus 3, 11 3 is 33. 40 plus 30 is 78. So 6B plus 78 units per day, right? So we know how much the groups can do per day. This group can do 200 units per day, and this group will do 6B plus 70 units per day. Now what else do we know? We know that action 5 is 3/4 times of action 4. Action 5 is 3/4 times of action 4. But both the actions get completed in the same time. So what is the number of boys? Basically B has to be found. What is the number of boys we have to do? Action 5. See, simple point to be noted is if action 5 is 3/4 times of action 4, meaning work 5 is 3/4 times of work 4. And both of them have got completed in the same time. So if work 4 takes 10 days, work 5 will also take 10 days. If work 4 takes 40 days, work 5 will also take 40 days. Meaning, the work done in this case should be 3/4 times of work done in this case, since the times are equal. And it's also given. The work done per day in action 5 should be equal to the work done per day in action 4. Yes or no? Work done, I'm just writing this so that you follow, guys. Work done per day in action 5 should be equal to 3/4 of work done per day in action 4. In action 4. Why is it so? Because the time taken is equal. Finally to finish the entire work, they're taking the same time. So whatever work you do per day in action 5, it should be 3/4 of the work that you do in action 4. Because actual work is 3/4 of it. Yes, no, times are equal. So work should also be equal in that given ratio. Right? That's it. Now what's the work done per day in action 5? 6B plus 78. So 6B plus 78 should be equal to 3/4 of work done in action 4 per day is 200. That's it. So from this, can you not find out the number of boys? This is 150. 150 minus 78 is 72. So 6B 72 implies B is equal to 12. So we can say that 12 boys will be employed in action 5 to get the answer. Yes or no? If one work is 200 units, the other work is 3/4 of that, it should be 3/4 of 200 units, 150 units. So 150 units is what they are doing per day, this group. Now you know the ratio of their efficiencies, right? Apply that to get the number of boys. Alright, she's got it. Moving on to the next one, which is on your screens now. If girls contribute to 28% in action 3, find the number of lecturers in action 3. A one-line question, and I'm sure it'll be easy to crack. The girls contribute to 28% in action 3. So the number of lecturers in action 3 will be equal to what? Quick. 8. 8 is what Power Star has marked here. Let's try it out. What does it say? If girls contribute to 28% in action 3, find the number of lectures in action 3. So basically number of lectures in action 3 is missing. Let's assume it is L. He says girls contribute to 28% in action 3. See, girls contribute to 28, meaning girls contribute, meaning what? The work done by girls is equal to 28%. Now how many units per day is done by girls? See, there are 7 girls. Each girl can do 5 units per day. So how much is that? 35 units. 35 units is equal to what? 28%. 35 units is equal to 28%. Yes or no? The girls contribute to 28%. 28% of the work is done by girls. So every day the girls are doing 35 units. So that is 28%. Now what will be the total work, by the way? 100% always. How much is that? If 35 units is 28%, how many units will be equal to 100%? When you do the cross multiplication, you will get this as 125 units. I mean, you don't really have to do cross multiplication. From your numerical skills, you know that 28 and 35, the difference is 25%. This is 25% more. So this will also be 25% more. So 100 plus 25% is 125. Yes or no? Or do cross multiplication. Same answer, right? So what do we get? 100 into 35 by 28. So this is 7 4s, 7 5s. So how much is that? 25 into 5, 125 units. So basically we can say 125 units is the total work. 125 units, this is the total work done per day. Now balance it. 11 boys into 6 units per day. So 11 into 6U. Plus 7 girls into 5 units per day. We have already done that, 35 units. Plus L lecturers into 3 units per day. So how much will that be? 66 and 35. 66 and 35 is 101. So L into 3 is equal to 125 minus 101 will be 24. You understand? I am doing the calculations mentally. 125, this is 66 and 35. 66 and 35 is 101. 125 minus 101 is 24. So that L into 3 equals to 24. So how many lecturers? 8 lecturers. A sitter basically. Very, very simple question. Option C, 8 will be the answer. Right? Moving on. Next question. Looks like a long one now. Try this. Total number of girls and lecturers assigned for all the actions together is 59 and 41 respectively, and the number of lecturers for action 3 is equal to the number of lecturers assigned for action 6. If for action 1 no boys involved, then how many days will it take to complete action 2 by the assigned persons of action 1? Try it out. 1 minute, the clock is ticking now. Vignesh says it is time consuming, we better skip it. But Vignesh, I'm sure, given that you have solved 3 questions and got the context so well now, you should try this out. Looks to be lengthy, but actually a simple one. All right, so let me just tell this to all of you. Skipping the question based on the length of it is not the good idea. It's not a good idea, right? I think Vignesh says I generally skip such questions. I'm assuming it is because you find it to be long, but usually questions that are long are easy to solve. So let's look at this. See what it says. Total number of girls and lecturers assigned for all the actions together is 59 and 41 respectively. So total of all the girls is 59 and total of all the lectures is 41. Now can you find out the missing girls and missing lecturers here? Let's try. See, 12 plus 7, 19, 19 plus 16 is 35, 35 plus 9 is 44, 44 plus 6 is 50. If this is 50, then this should be 9, so that total becomes 59. You getting it? Again, you can check 21, 28, 44, then this is 53 and 6, 59, yeah? Now, number of lectures cannot be found because there are two missing values. If there were only one missing value, we could have simply add all these to get the missing one. But here there are two missing values. However, when you read the latter part of the question, it says number of lecturers for action 3 is equal to the number of lecturers assigned for action 6. Number of lecturers for action 3 is equal to the number of lecturers assigned for action 6. Action 6 has got 4 lecturers. So action 3 will also have 4. That's it. Now can you find out the missing value? Yes, do that. 6 plus 4, 10. 10 plus 10, 20. 20 plus 11, 31. 31 plus 4, 35. If total is 41 and this is 35, then this should be 6. Yes or no? 6, 6, 12 plus 4, 16 plus 10, 26 plus 11, 37 plus 4, 41. Balance. So if you really look at it, the first half of the question is just about finding out this missing values, and it takes about 15 to 20 seconds maximum, right? Now comes the question, if for action 1 no boy is involved, meaning the number of boys in action 1 is 0, no boys involved, then how many days will it take to complete action 2 by the assigned persons of action 1? You have to complete action 2, but by the assigned persons of action 1. How do you do this? How many days will it take to complete action 2 by the assigned persons of action? First of all, what's the total capacity? What is the total work that is being done by this action 2 group? See, 8 boys into 6 units per day, plus 12 girls into 5 units per day, plus 6 lecturers into 3 units per day. Yes or no? This is the total work done by this group, action 2. How much is that? This is equal to 48 plus this is 60 plus this is 18. How much is that? 126 units per day, right? The same 126 has to be done by whom? By this group. This 126 units has to be done by this group now. Yes or no? Let's assume they take D days into D days, right? Number of days is D. So this 126 units of work is to be done by, now how many boys? 0 boys. So 0 into 6 is 0 anyway, plus 9 girls into 5 units per day and 6 lecturers into 3 units per day into D. Try and find out. Basically, we are just comparing 1 days of work. We cannot actually find out the number of days required by this action 1 group to do action 2. Total number of days cannot be estimated, but their daily capacities are being compared. What these guys can do in 1 day is 126 units. So for the same 126 units to be done by group of action 1, how many days will be required? That's what we are trying to evaluate here. Actual number of days cannot be estimated. Just keep that in mind. Yes or no? This is what they do per day. Into how many days? So that they can achieve 126 units. Right? So 9 5 is 45 and 6 3 is 18. So simplify this, what do we get? D is equal to 126 by 9 girls into 5 and 6 lectures into 3. 18 and 45. So that is 63. How much is that? 2. So we can say 2 days. So what this group does in 1 day, this group would take 2 days. Yes, sir? So that's what we are trying to calculate. It's easy. It's easy, but actual total number of days cannot be estimated. He says for action 1, number of boys, no boys involved, then how many days will it take to complete action 2 by the assigned persons of action 1? Yes or no? How many days will actually, strictly speaking, depend on the number of days required by this group to do action 2. For example, if this group does action 2 in 40 days, then this group will do action 2 in 80 days. Because for 1 day's work of this group, the first group takes 2 days. So for 40 days work of this group, the first group will take 80 days. You understand? We've got the ratio basically 2 times. This is 1 day's work and this group is 2 days work. So moving on. I think the last question from this data here on your screens now. If action 5 becomes twice the size of action 6, then how many boys will be needed to be assigned for action 5 if it has to be completed in a day? So action 5 basically becomes twice the size of action 6. Now what is the size of action 6? We know the number of persons involved in action 6. We can find out the size. What is the size here? See, 7 into 6 units plus 6 into 5 units plus 4 into 3 units. How much is that? 7, 6, 42, 6, 5, 30, 72, 4, 3, 12, 84. 84 units per day. But he says action 5 becomes twice the size of action 6. So action 5 will be 2 times of action 6. You don't have to write this. It becomes what? 2 into 84. 168 units. Then how many boys will be needed for action 5 if it has to be completed in 1 day? So basically action 5 is 168 units per day. And that's what he says. If this has to be completed in 1 day, then how many boys will be needed? Simply balance it. 168 should be equal to, let's assume the number of boys are B. So B into 6 plus 9 into 5 plus 11 into 3. So what will be the number of boys? Calculate. 9 5 is 45, 11 3 is 33, 78. 45 plus 33, 78. 168 minus 78 is 90. So 6B is 90, B will be 90 by 6, which is 15. And that's your answer. Right? Easy to solve, having done the first 4 questions. Right? And it always is the case when you're solving a data interpretation question. The first question takes longer, the second one takes lesser than that, the third one should take lesser than that, given that all the questions are of same level. Right? I mean, the understanding of the data and how to extract more data from it and how to use it gets better and better with every question that you solve. So that way the time consumed should be lesser. Now if only question number 4, 5 or 3, 4, 5 are more and more complex and more calculation oriented, it would take longer. But in terms of understanding, you get better with every question that you solve here. Right? So I think not a very complex one overall, but if you do not know the concepts of time and work, then you will not be able to solve these questions. So the popular missing data interpretation question type with some concepts of time and work here. I hope all of you have followed this. Practice anyways is the only key. The more you practice, the easier it gets. Exam is just about a week away from now. So keep practicing, leave no stone unturned. And yes, do take very good care of yourselves. We'll meet again on Monday, same time, which is 4:30 p.m. to discuss the next question. Question number 11 of these 15 must-solve questions. See you on Monday. Until then, do take care of yourselves and yes, keep practicing so that you can maximize your score.